Hey everybody, welcome back to Bimbo Mentality, an educational podcast for silly girls where we sit down with an expert and see if they can think like a bimbo enough to teach us all about the neat things that they do. My name is Bug. I am joined as ever by my co-host Emma. Emma, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic today, actually. So, yeah, having a good time. Excited.
Huge. We love fantastic. Over in the booth doing producer stuff, it's Rue. How are you doing, Rue?
I'm good. I'm pushing all the buttons, sliding all the dials, turning all the knobs to make the show work the way that it does. Which, limited success, but we're hanging in there.
Sometimes easier said than done, but we're going. We're making it happen. Ball is life.
Yeah, exactly.
We are very excited to be joined this week by our guest, Nyri Bakkalian. Nyri A. Bakkalian, PhD, is a historian of Japan and an author of transgender cyberpunk. She is the first out Armenian-American lesbian novelist. Her novels include Grey Dawn, A Tale of Abolition and Union, and Confluence, A Person-Shaped Story. Her byline has appeared at Unseen Japan, Metropolis Japan, Gutsy Broads, Nursey Cleo, and Fountain Magazine. She hosts the podcast Friday Night History. A third culture kid by international upbringing, she now reluctantly calls Pittsburgh home. Welcome to the podcast, Nyri. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I am, the sun is shining, and I'm rather enjoying the warm but still not oppressive weather here in Pittsburgh. We get by. We get by.
We love that. We love that. We take those. So you do a lot. You're an expert in a whole lot of things, which we're very excited about. Why don't you talk a little bit about kind of who you are, what you do, what you consider your sort of area and areas of expertise?
Well, first thing to know is that I sort of slid ass backwards into this whole content creator, writer, artist, internet song and dance gal thing. I got out of the University of Pittsburgh with a PTSD diagnosis and a PhD in Japanese history. And I found out very quickly that if you are trans, female, have a PhD, and an easily Googled non-Anglo name, nobody wants to hire you.
That sucks.
It does, and it's not for any lack of trying. And I'm not even talking about academic jobs. I tried to just apply to normal people jobs, but a PhD means nobody wants to pay any attention. So I started doing the things that I was doing anyway as a hobby, and that was writing and art and other things of that nature. And so I made that into a career. I went to as a scholar. I wouldn't call myself an academic because those people made it very clear what they thought of me. We'll actually get into that when we talk about the subject matter for today. But I spent the better part of a decade in grad school being told that I was too stupid to be there, and that nobody cared about my topic of research, which is really rich, coming from comfortably tenured, mostly white, mostly cisgender male so-and-sos, we'll call them. But I went from being a former academic to writing trans lesbian fiction. I wrote 2 trans lesbian sci-fi novels. I'm actually working on the second part of a series right now in the cyberpunk genre. I podcast. I'm now nearly up to episode 150 on Friday Night History, and for a while I had sort of had a very scattershot, here's an interesting topic every week approach. But then I realized that because I had been doing that for 3 seasons, some people were starting to think of me as a history buff rather than a historian with training. So I thought, all right, well, how can I turn this around and make it into something that's a little bit more cohesive and longer form, but will still have the same offbeat, queer and unorthodox approach? So I went for a season-long arc format, and that is what gave me Dragon Ascendant, the biography that I'm going to be discussing a little bit more about in a moment. And now I am in season 5. I am doing a first English language history ever of the Japanese Civil War of 1868. And the way I always sell people on that one is that it's samurai with Gatling guns.
Yeah.
Big. We love that.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned it obliquely there, but you obviously have sort of significant expertise here. You could talk about any number of things. You kind of came here today with the intention of talking about sort of one figure in Japanese history specifically.
Yes.
Introduce us to this figure you want to talk about.
Well, his name was Date Masamune, and he is a beloved figure of Japanese history. He frequently appears in pop culture. If you've played the Samurai Warriors video game series, if you're familiar with the anime Sengoku Basara, or the game for that matter, if you have played the game Nioh, you've probably seen him. You can't miss him. One eye, crescent moon helmet crest, kind of a pretty boy. He's very unmistakable.
Emma, this is sort of more your territory than mine. Are you familiar with Date Masamune? Is that a name you've ever heard before?
I cannot say that I have.
Okay, all right. So we're coming in totally blind. I confess my failings here. I'm totally out to sea on the topic of Japanese history in general. I am not even a big anime person, so I'm ready to learn from the ground up.
In the interest of setting everyone's minds at ease, I know that of course this is the Bimbo Mentality podcast, and those who know my social media footprint will know that I in my Bluesky bio and elsewhere self-identify as a bimbo by Taoist praxis. And that is a whole subject unto itself. But long story short is that I have inattentive ADHD, and for my entire life, and particularly before transition, my blood family, my birth family, would shame me about my inattentiveness by saying, "Oh, it's that Y chromosome at work again." So it's like, "Oh, great, you're shaming me for my ADHD by misgendering me also." But this idea of bimbo as an affirming term, as a term that can be reclaimed, like that is something that means a lot to me. But when I actually thought a little bit about it, I thought, in East Asian philosophy, in Taoism, there's this idea of wu wei, of non-action. And if you dig into the Japanese history of surrounding the martial arts and their intersection with Taoism and Buddhism, if you read the manuals by like Yagyu Munenori and Takuan Soho and other notable figures of 16th and 17th centuries especially, they talk all about how the idea is to have no thoughts, just empty, no thoughts, head empty. No thoughts, head empty will win you a sword fight, apparently.
Are we learning about like historical bimbo mentality today?
Yeah, you could say.
Holy shit.
I mean,
I'm real excited now.
This isn't even directly relevant to Date Masamune, although it's written by a man who he knew. So I'm trying to find. I read this. This is a collected a book of a couple of different historical treatises on the Japanese martial arts, but I read it in 2003, and then I read it again like 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, I have like hand annotated with no thoughts, head empty as sword fighting, or bimbofication as Taoist praxis.
We've not yet had a sword fight on the podcast, but we could. We'd have to go video for that for one episode, I think, but I'd be down.
Okay. So, for instance, in Yagyu Munenori's treatise on the Japanese martial arts, Yagyu Munenori, 17th century sword master, there's a passage where he says, "When you walk, it's bad to be fast or to be slow. Walking in a natural way, gliding, unthinking, is good. Using a sword, riding a horse, or whatever, do it with a natural mind such as that when you are not using the sword, not riding the horse, not writing, not playing the koto, or not doing anything at all. Then everything will be done without difficulty, smoothly, and with ease. In whatever art you pursue the way, if you are single-minded and determined to accomplish what you set out to, you are no longer pursuing the way. Someone with nothing in their mind is a person of the way. So, bimbofication is Taoist praxis.
Hell yeah.
Huge. I already feel like I've learned a lot today. I'm ready to go
hear
into
it. I'm glad to hear it. I also must say that as someone who grew up, on the spectrum and shamed for info dumping, and then having gone through grad school where I got yelled at by comfortably tenured professors who said nobody cares, I have made it my life's work to explain these complicated things to people in a way that's going to make them at least understand why anybody would care, or maybe would make them want to care themselves. So I am glad that I'm able to do this. So
that's absolutely Bimbo mentality, baby. That's what we're here to do. So
Date Masamune.
Yes, I'm ready to learn about Date Masamune. Tell us about this historical bimbo.
Okay, so he was born in Yonezawa Castle. Now I've provided you with a map. So this is a modern map of his home region. This is the northern third of Japan's main island, and in the prefecture that's labeled Yamagata, roughly in the middle of that, is Yonezawa Castle. And so he was born there in 1567 to a long line of local landed gentry. But in his generation, the trauma was about 4 generations deep, because this was the era of the Warring States, the Sengoku Jidai in Japanese. And his was not the most important family in the region, but they claimed authority, kingship, over the entire northern third of the main island. And he grew up under the thumb of an impossibly demanding father and a mother who was kind of trying to kill him for a while. And at around, I think, age 7 or 8, it would have been, he contracted smallpox and lost his right eye.
All of those, so really we're right on track for modern day bimbos. Demanding father, mother that tries to kill you, smallpox. Right? We've all been there on all of those things.
We've all been there, yes. And of course.
I mean, I had chicken pox, so it's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Also, shout out, Mom and Dad. I know you're listening. I love you both very much.
So he responded to this pressure by becoming incredibly overachieving.
Oh yeah, we've all been there too.
And like, I'm just looking at this. I remember looking at this as I was writing this biography, Dragon Ascendant, and thinking, oh my God, no. I thought I could relate to him already, but this just makes it even more so. Dealing with impossibly demanding parents by saying, all right, well, I will win at everything. So when he came of age, his father insisted that he take the name of a famous ancestor. Now, in Japanese culture, and this is one of the things I always tell people to bear in mind when cis people especially make a big deal out of, these trans people trying to change their names. In Japan, you got one name when you were born, and then when you became an adult, you took another name. You could change it if you wanted. When you retired, you took another one.
That is not all that uncommon throughout history and time and place, as I understand it, right? It's a fairly Western idea that you have one name and you have the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Plus, I mean, it's standard tradition for married women to change their last names.
Exactly.
Changing names is not a weird thing.
It's not a weird thing. It's not a big deal. But in Japan, in the old days especially, it was this rite of passage that you went through multiple names over the course of your life. So when he came of age, his father insisted that he take the name of a famous ancestor. And he responded to that by living a life such that nobody remembers that ancestor anymore.
Base.
It's so funny. It's so funny.
I would need to do a lot to overcome like Emma Woodhouse or like other things. So I think it's I think it's too late for me. Bug, you might be able to pull it off though.
I might be able to be the most famous bug.
It's yeah. I think you could do it.
I don't know. I have some stiff competition.
Fucking Scyther. Like,
yeah, there's Kafka's Metamorphosis. There's the movie Ants. Probably other examples.
Oh my god.
I've seen that one, by the way. Masamune went in with a mission to become the most famous Date Masamune. How'd he do?
Exactly. And he succeeded. He became ultimately the warlord with the fourth largest domain, like territory in Japan. He sent his own ambassador to Mexico and Rome and sort of tried to do an end run around the shogun by getting the Pope to send him guns. He was a patron of the arts. He founded Japan's first miso soup factory.
What the fuck?
He invented
Holy
an energy
shit.
drink.
Okay.
Patron saint of proto Red Bull, if you will. And along the way was a consummate lover of people of all genders.
Oh, all right, rad. That's definitely Bimbo Mentality, baby.
Yeah. This is a pro bisexual podcast.
right.
It is.
Mm-hmm. When I began writing, when I began like thinking about even like it would have been 2012, right the year after my egg cracked, but before my transition began, I was thinking, maybe I can write a biography of Date Masamune someday, and I shelved it for many years because of grad school. But when I returned to the project, I had to do my due diligence, and I had to find out, has anybody written about this guy at length in English before? Like, has anybody like written a book or like a comprehensive biography? And the answer is one guy. One guy from South Carolina from like the 1870s who didn't even know Japanese, who was the only other person who had ever written an English language biography of this man. And of course, because he's an unreconstructed South Carolinian from the late 19th century, he left out all of the interesting stuff like the queerness.
Yeah, that does not seem like the most winning of formulas, to be perfectly honest. Kudos to him for trying, I guess.
He had the benefit of having a lot of connections because he worked in Japan in like 1874, 75 thereabouts, I think. He had the benefit of actually having a lot of friends who were former retainers of Masamune's descendants. So they had access to physical books and artifacts and other things. But he used all of that, but he couldn't even actually read any of it himself. So he had to have people do translation compilation kind of deals. And his interpretation is very poor because with only English, you're not going to be able to read between the lines. You're not going to be able to ask the pointed questions. And so he leaves out the queerness, but he also leaves out the war, even the warfare, which you'd think he would be interested in. Even like in his passage on Masamune's involvement in the campaign in Korea in the 1590s, he says, "Oh yes, and he went to Korea and covered himself in glory, but these annals are only of interest to those who are fond of wars and battles. First, that's a very rich thing coming from a man who wrote multiple biographies of Confederate officers. Second, we have Masamune's correspondence from when he was in Korea on campaign, and it boils down to everybody's miserable, everybody's shitting themselves to death. I want to go home."
Well, which, you know, I think was probably a lot, a lot of people at wartime, but also like, you know, only of interest to people who are interested in wars and battles. So every dad ever, I mean, like that, there is absolutely a market for that.
Like, my
I
guy,
do.
you are a South Carolinian in the 19th century. What are you doing?
I would like to backtrack to one
Mm-hmm.
detail in particular and fill out this detail a little bit. What was this about him trying to get the Pope to send him guns?
This is actually one of the things that he's most famous for. There is a fresco in the one of the palaces that used to belong to the Pope. I forget the name, but it belongs to the Italian president now. And the Pope would have been Pope Paul V, who built the facade of the St. Peter's Basilica, where they come out when there's a new pope and they say, "Congratulations, we have a new pope." That was built in that era. So same pope. Masamune wanted guns from the pope because he wanted to do an end run around the brand new Tokugawa shogunate, and the only way to do that was to get foreign military aid. And so he sent an ambassador to Rome by the name of Hasekura Tsunenaga, and basically demanded to be heard before the Pope and the crowned heads of Europe. Very recently, there's actually been this is on archive.org. You can read it. It's in English. The archives of the Inquisition, like from Monty Python, debating, do we send military assistance to this Date Masamune guy who's saying he's a great protector of the Christians? And the consensus seems to have been, he hasn't even been baptized. Who does he think he's fooling?
I mean, you know, I was there like an argument that they should have done it because it was kind of funny.
There was a couple of people
That would have
initially
been argument.
who did seem to have that position. One of the people who had initially advocated for him was Sebastian Vizcaino. That was his name. Sebastian Vizcaino, who is not particularly well known in American history, but I think ought to be, because he was involved in naming a bunch of places in California, like San Diego.
Oh, yeah, that seems important. Emma, thoughts on that?
Sebastian Vizcaino was in Japan and happened to bump into Date Masamune on the way to church one day, and Masamune was shown his guns, and he sort of went, "What if I had more of these?"
I'm just sort of like hung up on the fact that the Pope was just like had a stockpile of arms. I mean, I guess this is like the Holy Roman Empire days or what have you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, but that's just a funny image to me of just like going to the Pope and being like, "Hey, can I raid your gun closet?" Like,
I have a meme that has traveled around a lot at this point, but it's a caption of one of the famous paintings of Masamune, and it's captioned, "Stairs in disaster bisexual." So anyway, Pope, about those matchlocks. But yeah, the Pope at the time was a temporal, like he was like a king, basically. So yeah, it's the Pope, but also he has lots and lots of financial and political clout, and, you know, he can, if he wishes, send money, send guns, tell other people to send guns, you know. So Masamune tried. Didn't work, but he tried.
all right, so he did not get the Pope to give him a Glock.
He did not.
What happened next? What was
Well,
next on the what was Plan B?
Here's where my particular chapter of vengeance comes in. Because I had all of those years of these comfortably tenured professors telling me that nobody cares about studying the Tohoku, you know, this set of prefectures in the north. Nobody cares studying world history. wouldn't you know it? Apart from the fact that this man sent an ambassador all the way to Rome, and he's commemorated in a fresco in the that was the name, the Quirinal Palace, in Rome. The ship that they built in his territory and that carried this delegation across the Pacific was eventually sold to the Spaniards, who took it into the Atlantic. And if you've heard of the 1619 project,
Sure.
yeah, the Spanish ship that brought the first group of enslaved Africans to the New World, some of whom were captured and taken to Virginia, that's the same ship that was sold by this Japanese warlord to the Spaniards, and was later involved in this other episode. And that's only been recently pinned down thanks to a historian in Virginia named Catherine Knight. So when I found that out, it was just like this. It was this moment of like, I thought of this. There's an astronaut who talks about wanting to drag every politician to the moon, point at the Earth, and say, "Look at that, you son of a bitch." Like I wish that I could have dragged these professors and pointed at this source and said, "You want to tell me this isn't world history? Look at that, you son of a bitch."
Yeah, history is fucking nuts.
It is, and it's, I have this complicated relationship with when I get asked, "Oh, you must love studying history." Well, I think it's interesting. I think it's important. I think sometimes it's entertaining, but love.
Well, certainly, it sounds like sometimes you uncover some dark shit.
Yeah. Yes. It's deeply, deeply fucked sometimes. You just, you run into stuff like that, and you just go, shit. Okay. But this is why I began and ended the biography of Masamune with a very important sentence. There are no great men in history. Because you have to remember that. You have to remember that. You have to remember that even your favorites, right, will have done terrible things, will have done utterly heinous things even. There are no great men in history, and even the ones who did a lot of good, all that came at a price. They often also did terrible things. So we have to bear that in mind. So there are no great men in history, I say in Dragon Ascendant, but there are people, men and otherwise, who cast a very long shadow. And that brings me to the other photo that I sent y'all, the statue. So that is a statue of Date Masamune erected in the 1930s. And it has very little to do with Masamune himself, because statues are symbols, and they say more about the people who built them. The thing about this statue is that it was built in the 30s, torn down in the 40s, restored in the 60s. And even after an earthquake, tsunami, and everything over the last 10, 15 plus years, it's still there. Why? Well...
gee, statues built back up in the 60s, that isn't apropos to anything else.
But, why is it, what is the significance? Why does this city feel so strongly about the statue as a symbol? And I think the answer is, and you have to actually know the topography in order to understand this. So they put the statue on Mount Alba, on the east side of town, and they've positioned it such that he's looking west. What is to the west if you're standing on top of Mount Alba? It's the city. It's the downtown. He's looking at the city. And so the way I end Dragon Ascendant is by telling, I wrote the final chapter as if I was taking the listener / reader on a walking tour of Sendai, and I was just pointing things out along the way and trying to tie everything up in a nice little bow. But at the end, we're standing on Mount Alba. We're at the foot of the statue. We've talked about the history of the statue, and then I say, remember, he's looking at something. Turn around. look. And then I sort of I wax a little bit poetic about the skyline at sunset and a city of many tongues, many creeds, many peoples, which despite everything endures as a capital of art and culture, of science and faith. Statues rise and fall, but there are living monuments that remain. Welcome to Sendai. Si monumentum requiris circumspice, which is Latin for, if you would seek his monument, look around you. The end.
Whoa.
You know, the statue could be gone again tomorrow, and it wouldn't matter. First of all, because statues are symbols. Second, because I argue Sendai the city is his monument. This living thing where people live and breathe and all of and all of the very long and rich history of this place that has been the center of that entire region, that exists because he said, I am going to put a city here. And to me, that is his relevance to the present day.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really beat that as far as accomplishments, right? Like, a whole last city is a pretty big deal.
I just want to say I have founded many a city. I've played a lot of Civ, so it's.
So in Civ 6, he's actually in one of the DLCs.
No way! Oh my god, yeah. He is.
In the northern Japan DLC, you can actually have him as your civilization's leader.
Oh my god! I want to go play. I'll go boot up the game now and do that. That's amazing.
Been a hot minute since I played that too.
Civ 6. Yeah, that's one of those civilization builder games. I assume.
Yes.
Is that the one where you can accidentally make Gandhi evil? Or is that a different one?
That's been happening since the beginning. So since the very first, 7 came out most recently, and I'm now diving into that one. But the joke was that in Civ 1, back in the 90s, they I don't know if this is actually true or apocryphal, but there was a bug where Gandhi's slider for willingness to start nuclear war was maxed out. And so if you were playing against Gandhi in India, he would always nuke you and break peace treaties. And so it became a running joke. And so in subsequent Civs, they kept a bloodthirsty Gandhi in there. So it was a whole thing.
Sick. That rules.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. I gave up on civilization builders for the sole and exclusive reason that the one that I had as a youngin' was called Empire Earth, and nobody remembers that one because it was broken as shit.
Empire Earth.
Oh, you do?
I remember Empire Earth, yeah.
All right. Yeah, it was broken as shit. You could not make it more than 20 minutes without getting your ass kicked.
Yes.
That one did not have evil Gandhi. Unfortunately. Do we think that evil Gandhi would have successfully raided the Pope's gun closet?
I mean, I could see it.
It could be possible for sure.
Could be.
Tell me more about what was maybe you don't, maybe you do know, maybe you don't know, but I'm always curious about views towards queerness in the time of that. What was it? Was he sort of insulated because he was part of aristocracy and had status, or was it more common, or what was that like?
I think a little bit of, best I can understand, a little bit of both. I mean, it was just normal at the time that men would have relationships with other men. The baseline is the Neo-Confucian understanding that it's your duty to carry on the family line, and as long as you've done that, nobody's going to bat an eyelash if you have a a male lover or a mistress or both or whatever, so with him it was often with some of his closest retainers, and this is actually one of the primary documents that I translated was a letter that he wrote to one of the men that he loved, and it has one of the gayest lines I have ever had the privilege to translate, where he says to this man, "You know well the insides of my arms and my thighs, do you not?"
Oh wow. That is
Shit.
so homo. Holy shit.
That would work on me. I would
Yeah.
swoon.
I have used it. I have used it with my partners. It's very handy.
Bimbo Mentality is a pro 16th century faggotry podcast. I just want to say that. Or should I say that?
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that? Rue, do we need to bubble that? Beat that out. Sorry.
I feel like that's a collective question there, but I'm into it.
I think yeah. What we're way past that point.
There's also a story from the very end of his life, where, again, one of his retainers, who was a lover, had apparently sometime earlier fallen out of favor, and Masamune was on his way to the capital, what's now Tokyo, and he was terminally ill, but he wanted to do everything absolutely right so that the shogun couldn't just swoop in and take his lands away so that his son couldn't inherit anything. So on his way out of his domain, the last stop on the road was this castle town called Shiroishi. It's still a city in Miyagi Prefecture. The castle has been since restored. It's very beautiful. I've been there. But the Katakura family was the ruling family there, one of his vassals. So Katakura Shigenaga. So Shigenaga had fallen out of favor sometime earlier, but Masamune wanted to make sure that while he was on his way out and he wanted to get everything, all of the loose ends tied up, he could stop and make sure that Shigenaga would be okay. So he spent a couple days there, and when he was getting ready to leave, his procession's all packed up. They get it. So picture, he's sitting in a palanquin, and a palanquin is this it's basically a sedan chair, it's like a chair inside of a box with a pole, and porters carry it. So he gets into that, and they start walking, and then Masamune sort of sticks a hand out and has them halt, and he calls Shigenaga up to his palanquin, and he says, "Look after the domain for me. It may be difficult for me to come back alive." And the story goes that the two of them wept because this was goodbye.
Wow.
And Shigenaga wept as Masamune's procession receded into the distance.
So he wasn't just like guy on the side. He was like true bisexual disaster.
Yes.
Bisexual. I love that.
There's other things too. There was an instance in his younger years of one of his vassals sending one of his daughters to go work for Masamune, like as an attendant, but in male drag. I still don't understand why.
No way. They reverse Gerudo Valley'd her. Oh my god, that's
the gender fuckery is just delightful either way. But even if I don't quite understand the specifics, but this is in fact a thing. Like she worked for him like personally for quite a while. I don't know if they were lovers, but in terms of examples of queerness in his life, this is another famous case.
Yeah, I'm genuinely surprised to discover that all the like you're gonna have to dress up like a girl to sneak into this city content in like Zelda and Final Fantasy actually has some historical precedent and is not just thinly disguised fetish material, although I assume it also is kind of that. I'm also really, really happy to discover that there is a genuine historical precedent of like, it's not gay if you get me pregnant, bro.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. And he another thing that's really, I think, worth pointing out about him is that he was known for being flamboyant. Now, flamboyance was a thing that was very common among people of his status at the time. There's this concept of basara, which is like it's gaudy, conspicuous consumption, as a thing that warriors of a certain status did in those days. I actually have a book right there called by Anton Schweitzer about one of the shrines that Masamune established that is a visual representation of basara, because it's very colorful. The bas-relief sculptures are really, really ornate, but Masamune was personally very flamboyant to the point that his family name, Date, became the adjective for, and I have to do the voice here, fabulous!
That's so based. Oh my god.
Holy shit.
Dude was like a warlord who was also like just love it. Like
Yeah. Was
like-
history's Richard Simmons?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
okay, now I want to know, like, was Alexander the Great like flamboyant, or was he more like down low?
Yeah. What
like,
historical faggots are there?
I mean, Alexander the Great might. You'd think I would know more, given that I grew up in one of the cities that he passed through. I grew up in Beirut. But Alexander the Great, if I remember correctly, eventually adopted some of the fashion and trappings of the Achaemenid Persian court, and the Greeks and Macedonians considered that effeminate. So I don't entirely know the specifics of that cultural context, but I do seem to recall that there was something like that going on there.
love it.
So yeah,
I love it. I love knowing about this. This is really cool. This is awesome.
What are some other really I wrote a 100,000 word biography, and I'm still sort of going, come on. In my defense, it was a year ago.
I forget what I did yesterday, so that's okay.
Yeah. It's forgetting where you are is Bimbo Mentality.
The flashiness of fashion, the money that he put into building ornate temples and shrines and other structures, and to preserve things that were already there, like structures of historical value, places of tourist interest, like that were already there in his time, is another way that he's remembered locally. There are places where, and I remember in the town of Matsushima, closer to the coast from Sendai, there's a family temple of his where you wouldn't know it on sight because it's this giant tree now, but a tree that he found during one of his campaigns and when he was sent to Korea, a plum tree that was originally very small, and he brought back because he wanted to say that he at least brought back something, is planted there, and it's this ginormous, like, it's grown for the past 400 years, so it's this enormous plum tree in front of this temple now. The Garyobai is the Japanese name. He's known for horticulture in cases like that. He was a noted musician. He played the drums very well, apparently. And unlike just about any of his peers, he really enjoyed cooking and microbrewing.
I was just brewing his own brewskis.
Yeah, he had his own brewery in his castle, and he experimented with different wines and spirits and things. He also was an inventor, as I said earlier, of an energy drink whose recipe has sadly been lost. We have a description. We don't have ingredients.
The guy was a drummer who drank a lot of energy drinks. I know a lot of gays who take after him.
Yeah, yeah. I think that some things today he would find very familiar.
Was he a crust punk dyke in disguise? Like,
I think he was to be honest. I get the impression that he was very obviously on the spectrum, and I say that because one of the primary sources that is most illuminating about his sort of day-to-day life just as a person was written by one of his attendants later in life named Kimura Uemon, who like at length would say, and he woke up at, this time every day. Then he would get up and say hello to the people who were waiting for him at the door. And then he would go back into the bedroom and take care of correspondence while still in his pajamas. At thus and such time, he would dress and greet the staff and have breakfast. And so we get this very specific, very down to the minute daily schedule. So I get the feeling, probably on the spectrum, probably ADHD. He had this again. To bring it back to Bimbo Mentality, he had a habit of periodically just going with vibes rather than actually thinking something through. And a lot of the time he got through without a scratch because, in the words of a jazz song that I really like, "Baby, you can't look bad long as you're looking good."
True,
but
true.
That didn't always work. That didn't always
I'm
work.
Very vibes based as well. I agree.
It's relatable. It's relatable. But to his benefit, he knew to listen to people who would tell him things he did not want to hear. And this, I think, is why he did not destroy himself.
This is why I go to therapy.
When he's knocking back brewskis with the boys, that's where you get.
Okay, autistic dude, I just feel bad. He would have loved what the train system became, hundreds of years after he was gone. He would have been in a prime spot to enjoy awesome trains.
I mean, from his castle, you can actually, if the skyscrapers weren't in the way, you can actually see all the way down into the plain, where the rail line, the bullet train line, goes south to north. That's all right in sight of Mount Alba. That's right awesome. There. And what today is the train line, used to be the old highway system, like the old pre-modern highway system. They just laid track on top of that. So this was already mass transit in his time. It was just a little bit slower and not as high volume.
Got it. That's awesome.
So yeah, I want people to get to know this man. I want people to understand him. I want people to ask questions about him. And I want it to be inclusive of his queerness, to be inclusive of his flaws, to understand how he connects to world history of the time in positive and negative ways. And ultimately to remember that we queer people have always been here. Always.
Yeah, that rules. I think that this has been, a really cool, intro precursor to what sounds like a really interesting historical figure. I'm glad that you have a lot more kind of material on him to check out, because it sounds like it goes real deep. But for now, I think we are getting to be time to talk about what we've learned today. So Emma, what'd you learn today about Date Masamune?
I've learned that the mentality of Bimbo life has been around for centuries, and that was really cool. And I learned that disaster bisexuals can pop up anywhere, honestly, anytime. So that's also great.
I have learned that you cannot just show up to the Pope's house and expect to walk away with guns.
You can try, and I will.
Yeah. We'll make that a stretch goal.
I've been to his house. I'll go back. I'll go back and ask this time. Yeah, it'll be good.
Yes, hello, Mr. Pope. Can I have, may I please have your finest matchlocks?
Look, he's a Chicago guy now. We just tell him like that we will like disband the Cubs if he doesn't give them or something. I don't know.
Do you have the power to disband the Cubs, Emma? That feels it might be an empty threat.
I absolutely can disband the Cubs. Watch me do it. Wrigleyville is done.
All right. Good to know. I'll keep that in mind. We'll also
terrifying.
We'll also make that a stretch goal.
Oh yeah.
Donate $10,000 and we will disband the Chicago Cubs.
We're coming for you, Chicago.
Yeah, so I've learned that Emma has majority share control of a baseball team or whatever. I learned a lot about thank you for saying about the way that queerness has existed throughout all of history, the way that all of history kind of connects and reflects back on contemporary society, and I have learned that history is full of disaster bisexuals who like to kick back with the boys and drink some brewskis, and that if you be enough gay and do enough crimes, there'll be a city named after you.
It's better than that. It's not. So it's actually a really good. It's actually a really good note to tie this up very neatly into, because he was this extra. The name Sendai that he gave to his castle town. Let me put it this way. Imagine like a king in Europe building a city and naming it Valhalla or Olympus.
Uh-huh.
That's about what that is. Sendai is the Japanese reading of a place name from Chinese mythology where the immortals live.
Rad. And to be clear, naming a city Valhalla or Olympus and actually earning it. Because you can absolutely imagine some fucking dork like naming his trailer park Olympus these days. That's not what we're talking about here.
My girlfriend likes to say, Date Masamune is like the guy who drives a van with a wizard airbrushed around the side, and he talks like he's hot shit, but then he actually backs it up with what he does.
Yeah, then he does like some sweet kick flips, and suddenly, you're dealing with the coolest motherfucker in the world.
Yep.
All right. Well, having heard what we've learned today, Nyri, do you feel like you successfully thought like a bimbo and taught us about your area of expertise?
Yes. As I so often remind people, I am an expert in a very narrow set of things, and beyond that, I am kind of a lovable airhead, and that's just fine.
Fuck yeah, we love that. That's Bimbo Mentality, baby. We are all about lovable airheads with deep curiosities here. Do you, before we wrap up, do you have anything you want to plug for us today?
I am on Bluesky and Twitch and Patreon as Riverside Wings, where you can also find my announcements about my podcast, Friday Night History. You will also be hearing there about my upcoming novel, which is about in a cyberpunk setting about two trans women, one from Philadelphia, one from northern Japan, who are thrown into an unfamiliar environment and find that the answer to what is home can actually be found in each other. I am fundraising for my gender affirming surgery, my top surgery, in September, and ko-fi.com/Riverside Wings is where I am taking donations. And for those of you who may be particularly feeling so kind, I would love to have a few dollars here and there.
Hell yeah. Yeah, check out Nyri's podcasts and books. Donate what you can, support creators and scholars. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, Nyri. This was a blast. I have learned a ton. That is gonna do it for us this episode of Bimbo Mentality. You can, if you want to continue hanging out with the Bimbo Mentality crew and some of our former guests, shoot the shit, hang out, post a bunch, you can join the Bimbo Mentality forum at bimbomentality.freeforums.net. You can follow us on Bluesky as well. And if you think you have what it takes to think like a bimbo and come on the podcast, you can send us a pitch on our Bluesky DMs or via email at prettybug@proton.me. Our intro outro music is 10 cents per minute by Tonsil Hockey. That's going to do it for us this episode. We will catch you in a couple weeks when we talk about solar power.
I just want to reach out and touch someone. I just want to reach out and touch someone. Don't you